Hi and welcome back to my channel. I had so much fun with this stencil smooshing technique I did in one of my previous videos that I decided to make another spread with the same technique, just with some different colors. I have already started here and I'm using the organic stencil combined with, I believe it could be vintage photo, but I don't have that in mind. I will try to find that out with my photos and then write the colors I've used in the video description so you can recreate the same color combo. I'm trying to work with complementary colors. I'm using brown oranges and bluish colors, and I really like that color combo. I'm drying the layers that I'm making in between so I don't get a whole mess on the page. I want to have textures that are layered up on each other. And that's what I like about this technique, that in the beginning you have no idea where it's going to end. And whilst you are playing and creating, you get a really nice dimensional background. And that's the fun part of the distress inks, as these are transparent. They layer quite nice on top of each other, and you still can see through the first layer until to the other layers. I'm just using some tissue paper here to soak up the excess, because I thought that inked tissue might be a quite nice paper later for other pages, for collages especially. And here I'm just taking a bit of the ink with a brush and I take it around the whole spread. The gray I've used is the pumice stone, I believe. Again, I'm drying everything, not 100%, but I looked at the main areas are dry. And now I go in with the Ink Dots stencil, and I believe that's one of the new distress inks I purchased lately. I don't have the color name in mind. I will definitely write it in the description, but that's one of my favorite colors. I use this type of blue a lot in my other work, especially for my sketching practice. That dark blue color that has kind of a greenish touch is one of my most used color pencils and markers. By the way, the tissue paper, I don't buy this usually. I always keep it when we buy shoes for the kids, because they are growing so fast. We have to buy quite a lot of shoes at the moment, and there is always this tissue inside, and that's quite nice to use for collages or for jelly printing. As always, I have a blog post for this video over on my website, and there I have some close-up images of the finished spread. And you will also find all the links to the stencils and stamps I'm using today in the video description. I decided to use some extra ink with a brush and make some splatters and add more of that blue to the page to get kind of a different texture and more interest I really love this color. It's so beautiful, and I think it is quite nice against that orangey brown. To soak up the ink, I'm using an old tea bag. That's also something I really like to use for collaging because of the transparency. I dried this spread again a bit, and here I'm back with the, I believe, Mermaid Lagoon blue. I'm quite sure that this is the one. It's also one of my favorite blues. And I'm using that crisscross stencil, and here the ink was not enough in my opinion, so I pressed it down again. Well, it's always a surprise what you get, but I would say usually it's a pretty. You just have to take care a bit about the colors you are using, and that especially that you dry the layers in between when you're changing from colors that mix well together to colors that that don't mix well. So a brown and blue usually gives a gray, so it's important to make sure that the layers are dry. And something else that might be important is don't cover up everything. Try to leave some white space. That makes the colored pattern much more interesting. It's not more interesting to have more color pattern. It's more interesting to have something neutral against something colorful and wild, I would say. And that might help. I'm using, I don't know, it might be Rusty Hinge. I really love this as a distress crayon to use in my sketchbook. I use it so often on the background, and that might be that orangey color, the Rusty Hinge. And I'm adding in more of that just to make that blue pop. What I like about distress inks, once they were in contact with water and reactivated, and then they dry on the page, they usually don't reactivate again as much as they do when they are fresh on the page. And so it's a nice, you have the option to go on top without smearing everything that is underneath. And what I really love here is the green that you get when you layer that Rusty Hinge over the blue areas. And that makes it really, yeah, I think really nice and interesting. While the background is drying completely now, I'm going to prepare my main image, and I wanted to use a circle again because I really liked that last time. And here I'm stamping that circle pattern from the Craft Collection 5 to one of my collage papers. It's from a paper pad, I believe from Die Cuts with a View, and it was just left over. And what I'm also stamping is that moth, this one, from the Inky Friends as the focal point on top. And here I'm stamping it again to a piece of cardstock. I think that might be the Canson XL watercolor paper. Just something that is more sturdy because I want to glue the cutout wings from the moth into that white moth. So I do some paper piecing and create a more interesting stamped image. Therefore, I'm cutting out the wings exactly on the black outline. And then I am able to glue that into the other moth. And then you won't be able to see that this is a cutout piece of paper. And that you can do that technique with any kind of stamp and create really interesting stamped images. For example, if you have kind of a girl with some clothes, you can just stamp that girl to a pattern paper and then cut out that cloth and adhere it on top of the normal stamped girl, and that will be quite nice. Also, I use this technique quite often for my mushroom stamps, to just give the mushrooms different textures and patterns. Something I wanted to ask you, as we are now 10 minutes into the video, and I think that's a time where most people have already left, and the people that are still here, I think these are the ones that are most interested in my videos and like them, and I would like to know which kind of videos you want to see in the future. Please leave me a comment, and then I have kind of an idea what I should make. I'm coloring in the rest of the body of the mouth with the rusty hinge and just a water brush. I pressed the lid of the ink pad a little bit together, and then I have some ink on the inside of the lid that I can pick up and color in with. I have another circle cut out from that pattern paper, and I'm inking up the edges with a makeup brush and that blue color where I have forgotten its name. And it makes it pop a bit more against a busy background when it has kind of a frame, I would say. As I wanted it a bit more intense, I decided to pick that ink pad directly and ink up the edges. I'm spritzing it a little bit with water so the ink gets activated, and that gives it more interest and looks a bit more organic. I will now arrange the pieces onto my spread. I have also some leaves here that I had already in my stash. These are the sketchy leaves, and they are stamped to watercolor paper, which was already colored in, and the colors are perfectly. So I decided to create kind of a dream catcher. I will adhere the moth on top of it, and maybe I will add a sentiment. I will do this off camera and then show you the photos. And this is how the finished spread turned out. I really love it. And I added a sentiment to the left side from our mixed sentiments, number 1. And yeah, and that's my spread for today. I hope you enjoyed this video, and maybe you want to watch some of the other videos here. And I wish you a wonderful weekend. Bye.